Do you ever find yourself in a pickle? Not like a where's the nearest Trader Joe's near me pickle, but a real pickle, like a brother and my dog are conspiring against the world together. What do I do? Kind of pickle. Well, if you're anything like me, you might find yourself adding Reddit to the end of your search query. And in an age where AI is purported to give us the fastest, most succinct answer to our question, ironically, a very deliberately simple social platform gives us the most honest one. Let's take a look at why that matters in our current age of media. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm an artist, and this is my series called Kattle Considerations, where I talk about art, culture, and the internet, and just generally anything I want to have a conversation around. And I don't care what you all have to say. I am, in fact, a Redditor, even though I too gag a little at the sight of a fedora. I don't know if it's just social conditioning, but that part, the paperboy hat, that whole thing, something about those I don't get. Why am I talking so much about hats? So there's this idea that a Redditor is a specific archetype of person, usually someone who's white, male, maybe has a bald spot, maybe has a bit of a dad bod, if you know what I mean. This is what Midjourney pictured as the typical Redditor. And while I do not doubt that these are some people that are on Reddit, I know a lot of people who use Reddit, even if they don't discuss that or even think of it as a social media platform, because I kind of put it in a different category of its own. Reddit has this really strange status where it's super cringe to people who haven't really used it. And then to those who regularly use it, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but it ends up being a lot of people's favorite platform. I think Reddit's really awesome, not just because you can find a lot of pretty vulnerable stories on it, but also if you ever have a problem and you're trying to fix it, maybe like a very nuanced software issue, whatever you're interested in, you can probably find someone or a forum that leads you in the right direction. I think part of the reason why a lot of people are opposed to Reddit, at least initially, is because it was originally created as the edgier version of this site called Dig. And I suspect that maybe the earlier versions of Reddit were much more akin to 4chan, where the lack of moderation sometimes induced a toxic environment. But from my experience, it is kind of what you make it. If you follow the communities that you are genuinely interested and invested in, it can be like a beautiful, wonderful place where you can learn a lot, connect with others who are interested in the same things you are, all without having the usual social media predisposition of you're supposed to connect with your friends, right? When you first sign up for a social account, on everywhere else you get like a, hey, follow your friends, that sort of thing. I don't think that's the case on Reddit. I think it's a little taboo to follow your friends on Reddit because it's associated with such brutal honesty. Reddit most certainly acts as a modern day confessional. We have an entire genre of reaction videos and content dedicated to people just reading out stories and things that they find on Reddit. It reminds me of the days of Ask FM, just any forum really. I was too young to really experience AOL, but I'm sure that kind of feeling, there's not as much live feedback as Omegle, but there is that secret ingredient of encouraged anonymity. And that is precisely the special sauce that leads to people being incredibly vulnerable on this platform. So much so that sometimes that vulnerability gets them in trouble. Just looking up Reddit in the news searches of today, we can see that a Reddit confession led to a student becoming deported. It can also lead to genuine change, where we see like Reddit complaints on broken Stanford drinking fountains lead to discovery of obsolete parts. As a writer, we're frequently encouraged to reference Reddit to find what people are actually thinking, what sorts of problems people are facing with different software, different products. Or another obvious example is the whole rise of GameStop. Despite the anonymity, Reddit can be incredibly powerful in terms of mobilizing people based on their collective interests. So why does this shift of adding Reddit matter? Well, hear me out. This might sound a little boring, but we are currently experiencing a huge shift in search engine optimization, or SEO. If you're a content writer like I am sometimes, you're probably very familiar with this. But the goal of SEO is essentially to get your article or piece of media to show up as top of the rank as you can when someone searches a question or searches for a particular piece of media. In the past decade, this has led to people optimizing media using things like backlinks, alt text, frequently asked questions, keywords. If you know, you know. But the reason why this matters is Google is making a huge shift from SEO to AIO, where Google's AI, I'm not sure if it's the same technology, but Google also has a specific AI called Gemini that's very similar to ChatGPT. But essentially, this AI will dictate what is getting the top ranking or what is fed directly to the searcher. And this might not seem super important, and it might be beneficial. I mean, SEO wasn't perfect, right? Like, people can just stuff keywords into whatever they're creating and game the system that way. And Google has arguably had so much power over what we see or don't see already, just by virtue of having such large market share as like the biggest search engine. But I see AIO as, yes, potentially more convenient, but it also creates a larger degree of separation between the actual sourcing of where the information is coming from and the packaged final asset that we perceive as truth. And it's not necessarily AI's fault, right? Because it's just being trained on information that isn't necessarily factual. But when we're given a piece of information and we're not able to discern where it's coming from, it just becomes very difficult to know whether or not it's factual. I'm sure anyone who's spent time with ChatGPT or Gemini or anything else knows that sometimes it doesn't get everything right. There are some pretty wild mistakes or just things that are incorrect. But I think people continue to use, at least at this iteration, use AI for more technical questions, right? Trying to get to a quick, maybe potentially low risk answer. Whereas if you're looking for something more sanitized, more vulnerable, or more nuanced, you still add that little Reddit to your search because you want to read things from real people. And it's funny, just the simple platform setup of just upvoting and downvoting text is so simplistic, but it works for that reason. This is so specific, but there's some period app out there for women, and there's like a section where there's a like a Reddit-esque forum, and I just remember being wowed with how vulnerable people are willing to be in those spaces because it feels anonymous and it's so simplistic. Tying it back to AI is also training on data that is in Reddit, that is on Facebook, that is on Stack Overflow, because it's understood that these platforms elicit a more human response, which is kind of terrifying. Do you want to say hi? You can speak on your favorite social platform. No. But yeah, it's really interesting. It feels like a never-ending train, right? We are adding Reddit to our search queries to get to a more human answer. Search queries in general are transitioning to be more AI, and that AI is training on Reddit. Confusing. But yeah, there's something very special about simplicity, and maybe it's just one of those things where the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth, where I feel like we're kind of at a similar point where it feels like 2013, maybe media felt very glitzy, glammy, in your face. I forget who used this term, but someone said that like thumbnails are deep fried now, where they're so oversaturated with the pure intention to grab your attention as quickly as possible. And there's the Mr. Beastification, which is very effective, but it's like every 5 seconds there's a cut, there's a move, there's a transition, there's da 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 da, looky here, and inevitably people get tired of that. And I think we see that across the board, not just in technology, but also in art. I think we're probably going to have another Lord Royals moment where after this boom of really exciting, kind of more in your face music styles, whatever, we're gonna see some success from really stripped down records, because I think that's how it happens. But we see that, of course, with media too. I mean, Reddit is still going strong. We've also got Be Real. I don't use Be Real, but it's meant to be simple. I get ads for like dumb phones all the time, or these little block things that help you lock your phone or lock certain apps, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I would love your thoughts on any and all of this. Do you use Reddit? Why do you like it or not like it, or engage with it or don't? And what platforms do you feel like the most honest as a creator, if you do create things, or be the most honest as a consumer? Or where do you go to find more vulnerable or heartfelt or whatever that is content? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Bye-bye.